My name is Richard. I'm 25 years old. I was born into a poor family. My parents did their best, but life was never easy. My father was a carpenter, my mother sold vegetables in the market. They worked hard, but we always struggled. Some nights we had only a little food. I remember my mother pretending she wasn't hungry just so my little sister and I could eat. I was young, but I noticed. I saw the tiredness in their eyes, the silent sacrifices. Despite everything, we were happy. We had each other. My little sister, Bella, was my best friend. She was only 3 years younger than me, but I always felt like her protector. She had the sweetest smile, the kind of smile that made you forget your problems, even if just for a moment. When I was 15, everything changed. My father fell sick. Started as just a fever, but it got worse. We didn't have money for a hospital, so we tried everything. Herbs, prayers, anything we could. But nothing worked. Day by day, he grew weaker. I watched the strongest man I knew turn into someone who could barely lift his own hands. One night, he called me to his side. His voice was weak, almost a whisper. "Richard, you're the man of the house now. Take care of your mother. Take care of Bella." I nodded, but inside I was breaking. I didn't want to be the man of the house. I just wanted my father to stay. He passed away that night. Life after that was a nightmare. My mother tried to be strong, but I could see the pain in her eyes. She cried at night when she thought we were asleep. We had no savings, no help, nothing. She worked twice as hard, but it was never enough. I had to drop out of school to work. I took any job I could find, washing cars, carrying loads at the market, anything to bring home a little money. Then, one day, another tragedy struck. Bella got sick. At first, we thought it was just a cold. But it didn't go away. She got weaker and weaker. When we finally took her to the hospital, the doctors told us she had a serious illness. The treatment was expensive, far beyond anything we could afford. I begged. I went from house to house, asking for help. Some people gave a little, but it wasn't enough. I even considered stealing, but I couldn't do it. I was desperate, but I still had my father's words in my heart. Bella held my hand one night and said, "Richard, don't be sad. I know you tried." I told her to stop talking like that she would get better. But deep inside I knew. She passed away in her sleep 2 days later. Losing her broke me. I felt like I had failed. I promised to protect her, but in the end, I couldn't do anything. My mother was never the same after that. She became distant, like she was just waiting for life to end. Years passed. I kept working, struggling, surviving, but the pain never left. I see families laughing together, siblings playing, and it reminds me of what I lost. People my age are chasing dreams, building futures. Me, I'm just trying to make it through the day. Sometimes I wonder, if things had been different, who would I have been? Maybe I would have finished school, gotten a good job, built a happy life. Maybe Bella would still be here, smiling, making fun of me like she always did. But life doesn't give second chances. I tell myself to keep going, that maybe one day things will get better. But deep inside, I know some wounds never heal. Some losses stay with you forever. Days turned into months, and months into years, but the pain never truly left. I learned to live with it like a heavy backpack I had no choice but to carry. Life kept moving, and I had to move with it. I found a job at a construction site. It was tough, long hours under the sun, lifting heavy materials, taking orders from supervisors who never seemed satisfied. But it paid just enough to keep my mother and me alive. She had stopped working after Bella died. She barely spoke, barely ate. It was like a part of her had died with my sister. I tried everything to bring her back to life, to make her laugh, to remind her that I was still here. But she was slipping away. Some days, she would just sit in Bella's old room, staring at the wall. Other days, she wouldn't get out of bed at all. One night, I came home late from work. The house was quiet, too quiet. I called for her, but there was no answer. My heart started pounding. I rushed to her room and found her lying on the bed, her eyes closed, her breathing shallow. Beside her was an empty bottle of pills. I screamed her name, shook her, begged her to wake up. I called for help, ran to the neighbors, did everything I could. But by the time we got her to the hospital, it was too late. She was gone. I remember sitting in that hospital hallway, staring at my hands, numb. The doctor was saying something, but I couldn't hear him. Everything around me faded. I was alone, completely, utterly alone. For weeks after the funeral, I wandered the streets at night, not knowing where I was going. Couldn't sleep. I barely ate. I would sit by the river watching the water, wondering what it would feel like to just disappear. One night, as I sat there, a homeless man approached me. His clothes were torn, his face covered in dirt, but his eyes, they were kind. He sat next to me without saying a word. For a long time we just sat in silence. Then he spoke. "Life is cruel, isn't it?" he said, staring at the water. I nodded. "I lost my family too," he continued. "Wife, kids, everything. I thought about ending it more times than I can count. But you know what kept me here?" I looked at him, waiting. The hope that maybe, just maybe, tomorrow will be better. I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that nothing ever got better. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel completely invisible. Someone saw my pain. Someone understood. That night, I made a decision. I wouldn't give up. Not yet. I started saving every little bit of money I could. I rented a tiny room in the poorest part of the city. I found a second job working at a small restaurant at night, washing dishes. It was exhausting, but it kept me busy, kept me alive. Slowly, I started to rebuild. I made a friend at work, James. He was older, maybe in his 40s, but he had a good heart. He taught me things, gave me advice, told me stupid jokes when he saw I was too quiet. One day, he asked me what my dream was. I almost laughed. Dream? I didn't have time for dreams. "Come on, man," he said. "There must be something." I thought about it. Once, a long time ago, I wanted to be an engineer. I used to love building things, fixing things. My father even said I had a gift for it. James smiled. "Then go for it." I shook my head. "I can't afford school." "Who said anything about school? Start small. Learn. Watch videos. Read books. Practice." It sounded impossible, but for the first time in years, I felt a spark of something. Hope. I started spending my free time learning. I borrowed books, watched free tutorials online, practiced with whatever scraps I could find. I made mistakes, a lot of them, but I kept going. Years passed. Slowly, things changed. I got better. I found better jobs. I moved into a small but decent apartment. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't starving anymore. And then one day I got a call. A company was looking for apprentices. It wasn't much, but it was a chance. I went for the interview, heart pounding. When they called me back and said I got the job, I broke down in tears. Now, at 25, I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm far from where I used to be. I still have days when the past haunts me, when the pain feels fresh, when I miss my family so much it hurts. But I keep going. Because maybe, just maybe, tomorrow will be better. Life didn't magically become easy after that. Some days I still struggled to get out of bed. There were moments when the weight of everything I had lost threatened to pull me back into the darkness. But I held on. At my new job, I was the youngest apprentice. Most of the others had degrees and experience, while I had only what I had taught myself. At first, I felt out of place, like I didn't belong. But I worked harder than anyone else. I arrived early, stayed late, and asked questions even when I was afraid of looking stupid. My supervisor, Mr. Coleman, was a tough man. He rarely smiled and had little patience for mistakes. But one day, after I fixed a complicated wiring issue that had stumped even the senior apprentices, he patted my shoulder and said, "Good work, Richard." Those two words meant more to me than I could explain. With time, I became more confident. My hands, once rough from years of hard labor, learned to be precise, to create, to solve problems. I started taking on bigger projects, proving to myself that I was capable. One evening, after work, I walked past a small cafe and saw a help wanted sign in the window. The place was cozy, with warm lights and the smell of coffee drifting out. I didn't need another job, but something made me walk inside. Behind the counter was a young woman, maybe around my age, with tired eyes but a kind smile. "Are you here for the job?" she asked. I hesitated. "Yeah, if it's still available." She nodded and called out, "Dad, someone's here about the job." A man walked out from the back. Graying hair, flour on his apron, and a welcoming expression. "You ever worked in a cafe before?" he asked. "No," I admitted, "but I learn fast." He chuckled. "Honest, I like that." That was how I met Mr. Harris and his daughter Emily. I worked at the cafe in the evenings, helping with small tasks, washing dishes, and learning how to make coffee. It wasn't about the money, I just liked being there. The customers were friendly, the atmosphere was peaceful, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I belonged somewhere. Emily and I became friends. She had lost her mother a few years ago, and though she didn't talk about it much, I could see the pain in her eyes. She understood loss. She understood me. One night, as we closed up the cafe, she found me sitting outside, staring at the sky. "You okay?" she asked, sitting beside me. I sighed. "Yeah, just thinking." She didn't push for details, just sat there with me, silent but present. That was the moment I realized something. I wasn't alone anymore. Months passed, and things kept improving. At work, I was offered a full-time position. At the cafe, Mr. Harris taught me how to bake, and Emily and I grew closer. One evening, as we walked home together, she asked, "Do you ever wonder why life gives some people so much pain?" I thought about it for a moment before replying, "Maybe because we're meant to survive it, and help others survive too." She smiled. "That's a nice way to look at it." For the first time, I wasn't just surviving, I was living. There are still days when I miss my mother and Bella so much it hurts. But now, when I think about them, I don't just remember the loss. I remember the love, the laughter, the good moments. And I hold on to them, because even after everything, I'm still here. And as long as I'm here, I'll keep going. Because maybe, just maybe, tomorrow will be even better.